that on the subject I'm talking about now, I am the world expert. Okay, no one knows more about this because I'm talking about the life and work of Mark Ansell. I've been asked to share just a little bit with you this afternoon about how I ended up being a vicar in the church in Wales. And so you don't need to take any notes. Okay, and if it gets a bit boring, then feel free to check those very important Church in Wales emails that are waiting for you somewhere. So I'm going to share with you my vocations journey. It's very personal to me, so everyone has a different story, but I'm going to share with you because I want you to think, as I share my story, to help you reflect on your own journey too, especially today we're thinking about all of the people who have helped us on our vocational journey. All those people that have given you a nudge, all those people that have spoken to you, all those people who have been influential in your Christian story. And maybe as you think about those people, those who've helped you on their way, there'll be a chance for you to consider how might you be able to help others on their vocational journey too. What role can you play? Many of you in ministry in the church. What role can you play in giving other people that little nudge on their journey too? So that's what I'm sharing all this with you for. And sometimes it's only looking back that things actually make sense and you realise what was going on at the time. I remember when I was a teacher, I was about to leave my first school where I'd been for about 5 years as a member of staff there, and my last week with the children, it was really odd because the head teacher kept sending me away on all these random courses. So I was sent off and he'd say to me, can you go on Tuesday, you've got to go to this course on plasticine expression for the under 7s. And I was like, what's this, what relevant is this? And I think, I want to spend some time, the last few days with my class before I have to say goodbye and go off to another job. It didn't make any sense, but it all made sense on the very last day of term when there was a school assembly, and I realised that the staff had been using that time while I was out of school to teach them songs and a sketch all about me so that they could present that in the assembly. It was only at that point I realised that's what all those weird courses that was going on was all about. One of the joy of getting older, there aren't many other, but there are some good bits about getting older, is to be able to look back on your life and reflect how God has used you over that time. So I believe that God, from early on, probably was calling me to be Area Dean of Aberystwyth, but he had to start from a very difficult place. Not the best raw material, but he's the God of the impossible, isn't he? And how to take a non-conformist Brummie and make them into a vicar in Aberystwyth who preaches in Welsh every week. A strange jump. So my Christian journey began as a child. My parents were Christians, and I went to the local evangelical church. And it's a very special place. Reason is because not many people can say this, but my dad built the church. There was a group of young people at the time who found a patch of wasteland on a brand new housing estate, and they prayed over it. They got into the land, prayed over it, and then they approached the council. Will you give us this land? Yes, said the council, you can have it for next to nothing rent, and you can build a church on there. Between them they had an architect, they had an electrician, and they got together, and that group of people physically built that church, which is still standing today. So a very special little church there on the estate in Birmingham near my parents' house, which is where I went to. And I remember coming to faith. I was converted at the age of 10. So we've already heard today the importance of children's and youth workers, those Sunday school teachers who work with children, many of them who come to faith at that age and then go on to serve Christ all through their lives. So maybe you can think about those who are working and who've helped you on your journey. Converted at the age 10, I had a very real and active faith at that time. I remember discovering the power of prayer when I was 10. At that age, it's different now, I didn't like PE. I wasn't a big one for, the football and the cricket and all of that sort of stuff that we had to do. And so every Friday, I remember in the top end of primary school, it was sports on the field. So every Thursday night, I would be praying that God would send rain and it would cancel. And it nearly always did. And at at the end of the year, I remember our teacher saying to us, "Sorry children, I don't know, we haven't had a year like this before. We've hardly done any sports this year. It keeps raining every Friday. I don't know what's going on." And I, as a child, thought, I know what's going on, but I'm not going to say. The power of prayer. At secondary school, a great time of growing in faith at secondary school. It was the time, if you remember the 1980s, Billy Graham Crusades, my school. I went to a grammar school near Villa Park in Birmingham, and Billy Graham was coming there. I asked my best friend to come with me to hear Billy Graham, and went down on the pitch and was praying with him then as he gave his life to Christ. We started a small prayer group, the two of us, which then became 3 of us, 4 of us, and by the time we left the 6th form, I did the statistics, nearly 20% of the 6th form had joined our prayer group and were at some stage of faith, which was fantastic to see God at work in that stage. So that was really good to see God at work as a teenager going there. C.S. Lewis described himself as one of the most reluctant converts in all of Christendom. I think I would have to say I'm one of the most reluctant Anglicans in all of the church in Wales. I come from a very strong evangelical chapel type background, non-conformist background. My initial church where I went to first was from a Brethren tradition, those of you who know that tradition, which is very, very different together. I arrived in Aberystwyth University as a Christian. The first thing I did, my parents had brought me there on the train. I said goodbye to them, closed the door, I knelt down by my bed and said, "God, I'm going to give you these 3 years now while I'm a student here in Aberystwyth, so lead me, guide me in my time here." Within about less than 10 minutes, there was a knock at the door, and it was the Christian Union knocking the door and saying, "Hello, we're the Christian Union, would you like to come to church on Sunday?" And I said, "Yes, please, because I'm a Christian too." And they said, "That's great. We're going to go to St Michael's Church in Aberystwyth." And I said, "Oh, good. What sort of church is that?" And they said, "It's an Anglican church." And I said, "No, thanks. I'll find a proper church." That's it. So they said that. And they said, this is what they said. And I thank you. So I thank the person. I've written to this person and said, "Guess what? I'm a vicar now." I said to this person, she said to me, "Just come for the morning service. You can go to another church in the evening if you want to. Just come along to the morning service." So I agreed and went along to St Michael's Aberystwyth. And both the worship, which was contemporary and spirit-filled, and the preaching of the late, great Bertie Lewis, both appealed to me. And I thought, these people seem like Christians too. It's okay, these Anglican things. And I went back in the evening. 3 years there at the university in Aberystwyth, worshipping then at St Michael's in Aberystwyth. Planning to leave and go off back to England, started applying for jobs and do things. But no, God's got his finger on you, hasn't he? Make sure that he gets his way in leading and guidance, and God had other ideas. I was studying librarianship and pure mathematics, which is an unusual combination. I guess I'm qualified to count books, is what people tell me what I can do with that. Part of my librarianship course involved me to write a computer program which would index a book. To take an ordinary book and produce a book index and sort it all into alphabetical order. Simple little bit of software really. I had to write that bit. And I thought, what should I do? And the church, St Michael's Church, has got this lovely songbook of all the modern worship songs, but it doesn't have an index in the back. So I'll put this through my computer thing here, it can produce the index. So I did this, handed it in to the staff at St Michael's Church just the very week that they were looking to appoint a new church administrator. And they thought, here's someone who can do this sort of things. Would he like to stand for administrator? So I ended up getting offered the job and ended up working for St Michael's Church for 8 years as an administrator. And when I look back, it's joy of looking back, isn't it? The preparation that I learned there, learned about faculties and buildings and contracts and admin and time management, accounting, wedding laws, all those things that are so useful to me now, but a lot of time of learning that how a church is run and so much more. But admin suited me. I liked being behind the scenes. The most terrifying part of my job as church administrator was every Sunday when I had to walk to the front of the church and give the notices at the beginning of the service. And facing all those people, there's several hundred people in the congregation, it would terrify me. And that was something I had to really work on to gain that confidence to talk to large groups. One of the team vicars there in Aberystwyth while I was administrator, a young man by the name of Andy John. Whatever happened to him, I wonder? He asked me to lead a service and preach while he was away on holiday to cover for him. Being a member of the staff team, he thought he could ask me. I did. I enjoyed it. It was good. I remember preaching the first time in the book of Haggai. And I'd just been reading a commentary about it and studying that, and wanted to share that, and it was good. I enjoyed that. It was good. Thought that's okay. A few months later, he asked me to do the same again, and I took another service in Holy Trinity in Aberystwyth, and it was awful. I was scared. I didn't preach very well. It was awful. It just didn't go very well. You've possibly had services like that. I don't know when they haven't gone, quite right. And I thought, okay, I don't think leading services and preaching is a thing I want to do ever again in my life. I decided at that point, in my naivety, without probably consulting God on that one. That's what I decided to. And when asked by my vicar around that sort of time to consider ordained ministry, I said, no, that's not for me. That's not where I'm being called to. But God hadn't finished with me yet. I decided it was a time for a change of career after working for St Michael's for 8 years. And every morning on the way to the church office, I would take my eldest daughter along to Ysgol Cymraeg in Aberystwyth and look around the school as I dropped her in the classroom thinking, school's a nice place to work. Wouldn't mind being a teacher maybe. And started looking around thinking, yeah, let's have a go at that. So I was back to college, back in Aberystwyth, to do teacher training for a year there. Having learnt Welsh by this stage, I decided the only way I'd get a job would be to do it with the medium of Welsh. So that was a challenging year. Those of you who've done teacher training will know how tough it can be as you're continually observed, watched, being given feedback, taught to control difficult classes, and all of that. I ended up getting a job in a primary school in Aberystwyth, where it just so happens that one Andy John was the chair of the Board of Governors at the time, so I don't know if that's a coincidence or not, but I enjoyed my time teaching and had a great time there. I was selected by the County Council for training for the NPQH, the headship qualification course needed by all head teachers, and again I did that course with the medium of Welsh. I enjoyed that tremendously. I was sent in by the Education Department as a temporary head teacher for a North Ceredigion school, which soon became a permanent appointment. And we've talked already about vocations to other things. And I know, and I knew at the time, that I was called for that role as head teacher. The second week I was there as head teacher, I remember taking the children out to the gates, what you do, and then match them all up with their parents. It's quite a good game, pairing them all up, because you have to get the right children to the right family, I've discovered, otherwise there's all sorts of complaints. So you match them all up with the gates, and there was a delegation of a couple of parents who came to me and said, Mr. Ansell, please can I have a word? I was like, oh dear. It's never good really when parents come into that lesson. And they said, we just want to encourage you. We've, as a group of parents, we've been having a prayer meeting in the village, and we've been praying for a Christian head teacher to come to the school. And you're the Christian head teacher we've been praying for, so welcome. This is really good that you're here, and we know that it's God's will that you're here in our village in the school. So really good to have that confirmation of my appointment in that way. God was still using me, teaching me lots of stuff. School, I learnt about leadership and vision, working with volunteers, all good experience for what was going to be coming. Grateful to have other Christians on the school staff team. Developed a really strong ethos of Christianity within the school. We were the only school, I think, in North Ceredigion that refused to celebrate Halloween. We had a very strong Christian ethos on lots of these things, and that was really good. By this stage as well, I'd begun to preach again in St Michael's Church, this time in the large congregation, having learnt more confidence in public speaking and stepping up in front of people. During that time, the vicar of St Michael's at the time had become default area dean. There were 22 churches in the deanery, all without a vicar. And this was impossible for one person to look after. So he got the idea of having lay ministry teams to go out and help out. And I volunteered for one, for the Browestwyth group of parishes to help out there. A week after volunteering, I had a licence from the bishop at the time to lead services, to preach and do communion by extension, all without any training at all really. So I'm thankful to priests at the time who came along and gave me some advice. I just went online and bought myself some robes so I could dress up and look like a vicar in the parishes, and went out there as a lay minister, authorised by the bishop to to take those services. And it was a bit strange, I guess, for the local families, because I was the head teacher in the school during the week, and when they went to school on a Sunday, they found Sir in the pulpit and taking services, and they must have thought, what was going on there? That was very strange for them, I think. That was probably the first time that I thought I could probably imagine myself as a priest one day, taking services out in those rural churches, dressing up in art and taking services, and realising the need that was there. It was that need that really got me thinking about this. I remember thinking, I don't think I'll be a very good vicar at all, but I think I might be better than them having nobody at all. And that's how I approached my vocational sort of journey when I went to selections and things like that. I don't think I'll be a very good vicar, but I'm probably better than having nobody, or at least I hope I'm better than having nobody at all. And I started to pray at that time, God, are you calling me to lead teaching and go and get ordained? Is this for me? And again, of course, when you pray things like that, God answers prayer, doesn't he, and puts things there. I needed confirmation, because you need to be really sure. I'd been prayed into that school, and I needed to know that it was now the time to move on. Didn't tell anyone what I was thinking. As a head teacher, you can't hint that you're going to leave the school, or the council might try and close it, or whatever, so I had to keep all this very secret. But didn't stop the call of God. So I prayed, make it clear to me, God. And a couple of things really stand out as answers to that prayer. The first was I was on a Sunday school trip with my children and others with Eglwys Santos Fire in Aberystwyth, and we'd gone out on the train to Harlech to spend the day up in Harlech, which was very nice, looking around the castle and doing that. And we'd come back to catch the train coming back down the Cambrian coastline. Some of you have done that in the summer. It's very crowded. It started to pour with rain. It was a horrible day, and we crammed onto this train, so we couldn't sit together as a family. So we got on the train, and as you do, looking for a seat, and also looking to find out if the person who's sitting next to the seat is safe to sit next to. You assess everything, don't they? They're a bit of a nutcase, you don't want to sit there, or whatever. So look at it. I found a nice little old lady, she looks safe, I'll go and sit next to her. So I sat next to her, and we got into conversation. And I discovered that she spoke Welsh. She started speaking Welsh, and she was very nice. She complimented me on my Ceredigion accent. She'd got no idea I'd come from Birmingham, which was very nice. So we had a good conversation in Welsh. She asked me what I did as a job, and I told her I was a head teacher at the moment. And she looked at me and said, have you ever thought about being a minister in the church? Because I feel that God is calling you to give up teaching and be a minister in the church. I thought, this looked like a nice, safe little old lady sitting next on the train. Here's she from nowhere at all saying, I think God is calling you to be a minister in the church. And she gets out her notebook and says, what's your name? I said, okay, I'll tell you my name. So I told her my name. She writes down in books, because when people are ordained in the church, their names are published, in the Church Times or whatever, and I'm going to look out to see your name in the future, because I think that's what God is calling you to do. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing. Just one train trip from a person I never met, and I didn't take her name. I've told this story a few times, and I expect one day one person to say it was me, but no one's ever come forward to admit this. But so I don't know who she was, but she was one of those people that gave me that little nudge. God is calling from somebody who knew nothing about me, but just knew that. I still wasn't convinced. You like me thinking, well, that might just be one random old lady. So I carried on praying. I mean, I was the Christian head teacher that was prayed into that school. Could I possibly leave? One night, Sunday evening, sitting in the pews in St Michael's Church, I was approached by one of the parents from my school, a parent who joined after this. She wasn't one who spoke to me at the beginning when I first began. And she just came up to me at the end of the service, excuse me, can you just have a quick word? She said, I'm not sure if this means anything to you, but I've just had a vision of you in a dog collar. Does that mean anything to you? Is this something you're thinking about? Okay. And I knew then that it was right for me to leave the school. That would, for coming from a parent of the school who was passing on this, and then I approached the vocations advisor, saw the DDO, and the rest of this is history. A couple of lovely years as a curate in sunny Aberystwyth. I was sent back to Aberystwyth, where I've been since 2016, working alongside a great team of clergy and lay staff there. God really clears the way, doesn't he? I remember I was at college training and convinced that God is calling me to Aberystwyth. That's the way I wanted to go. And while I was at college, somebody, I wasn't involved in this, appointed Moniz Farah as the new rector of Aberystwyth. So I immediately get out the old diocesan yearbook and check his age. He's only a little bit older than me. I thought, so I have to wait a long time till he retires for me to be able to go back to Aberystwyth and take over from him. But God had other ideas, and he went off to do greater things, and there was a space there for me in Aberystwyth. So I'm grateful to those who give me opportunities, encouragement, experience, and share their wisdom over the years.